And we're doing it. Oh, I thought the countdown music was starting again.
It did kind of. There's a little minute of it.
Oh, all right. We're here. You can hear me. I can hear you. Joe Skeen, how the heck are you? It's great to have you here.
Pretty good. I've decided this is just an excuse for you and I to get together and talk about hacking and what's going on in our lives. So
I'll take it. I'll take any excuse I can to chat with you. I do have to say, if you don't mind me saying, you look a little bit different. I can't put my finger on it.
I hope you're not going to say older.
No, nope. I'd say you look seasoned. You look like a person who has new experience, new adventure happening in his life. Am I way off on that, or is there any truth to that?
You are correct. I am. You may use the term grandfather, but I would not use that term. Oh. You can call me Papa Joe. So yes, we have a new grandbaby, so that is pretty exciting. It's a new experience. I understand why some people who are called grandparents enjoy it so much more. Totally different experience. Baby cries. Here.
Yeah.
Go fix this. Baby needs a change. I could do that, but I'm not going to, so it makes the whole parenting experience much better. I see why grandparents enjoy being grandparents more than parents. So,
and that was one of my first questions to you is like, do you hear the midnight and go, huh, and like the old instincts kick in where you're, running across the house. But I imagine now you can go, oh, is that, oh, that's not for me. I mean,
it's more like, oh, geez, I'm glad I don't have to wake up.
Well, congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
That's super cool. And maybe I'm weird. I'm already looking forward to that experience and just in a beautiful way punishing my kids by doing what my parents do, which is show up and give the pixie sticks and the loud toy that goes bah, 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 and then leaving, or bringing them up to their place for a weekend and pumping them full of cookies and no sleep, and then dropping them back at my house Sunday night to start their regular school week on Monday. And then they're a disaster until about Wednesday afternoon.
I look forward to all of those things.
I can't wait for it. Well, speaking of ruining things, we're going to be talking about Pentesting GOAD today, game of Active Directory. I can't tell you, Joe, how excited I've been to dive into this with you and for our friends watching, because I've known about this forever, heard beautiful things about it forever, and was just like, someday I'm going to get into it and just have the time or have the hardware. And so we're kind of, I said before we hit record, we might not get too far into the hacking department, because what I found out is that once you actually get this installed, that's great. That's like 90% of the battle.
Yeah.
But then there's another 10% that just to have a good pen testing experience, there's some config files and things you have to play with. So by the time we get through all that, maybe this episode might be a little light on the actual hacking, but the hope is, right, we always lay these out so that there's the fundamental, instruction kind of step by step, so people can just, like you were saying, right, they can hit the keyboard and go, how do I get going with this? Cool, I'll watch this, and this will talk me through it.
Yep, and we talked about GOAD SCCM, kind of a different approach, resetting, going back to just doing GOAD, starting over with that, kind of talking through some of the setup. How do things work? What do you need to do? So let's get into it. I think you have some prerequisites from things you want to chat about before. So let's chat about them.
And knowing we got a lot of GOAD prerequisite stuff to go through, I'll try to make this quick, but I do want to just put in a little plug for a little plug for 7minsec.club, which is a newsletter. And about once a week, I send out something security related. So it's not to spam anybody and be like, you got to use 7MS for stuff. It's more like exciting tidbits about stuff that I'm learning that I want to share with everybody. And now this last week, I tested going live with it in a format where I could share my screen. And I'll show you what that looks like. Also, there's a little bit of an update to bpatty. I want to show that in one slide, and then we'll get into poning the GOAD. So 7minsec.club is the website. Yes, it looks like a malware domain. I get that, but I just wanted to kind of separate it from the 7minsec corporate site. So when you hit it, it is going to ask you the maybe most annoying technical question in the world. Will you give us your email address? And notice that you can say no thanks at the bottom, and you can just no thanks it, and you can read the content anyway. But I would hope that you would want to join so you can get email alerts when we send out.
This is how you get, the email alerts for when we do these live streams, or, whatever else Brian happens to be working on and wants to share with the world. So sure, share your email. But I do like the fact not very many people give you the option of saying, yeah, no, I don't want to share my email, but I want to read what you've been up to. Great.
Yeah.
Did you do that? So,
and I see a lot of our friends are subscribing with like I think is it DuckDuckGo will give you kind of like temporary
or temporary emails.
Yeah, so I see a lot of like bing bong boop at duck.com or whatever. It's like four words with hyphens, and I'm like, okay, that's fine, right? Whatever kind of gets you tuned into what we're doing.
And it could be the hidden emails too, where for privacy, perfectly fine. So
exactly. So the latest post there will be it's about a 15-minute video showing my love for transfer.zip. And I don't think I've had a chance to talk to you, Joe.
Nope.
Were you already aware of transfer.zip?
I wasn't, but I saw the 7minsec club plug for it, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I'll have to check that out.
It's really neat. Our buddy Nate over in Slack told me about this, and I bookmarked it and thought, oh, that's neat. And then
wait, was that an Inception plug? Was that a plug for Slack inside a conversation about 7minsec club? I like it.
Oh boy,
well done, buddy.
Deep. I mean, tangents are good when you layer them like a sandwich, and then you can kind of chomp the whole thing.
Right.
Yes, and I had a customer that needed to send a gargantuan transfer to me, and it was like, okay, do I do files.com? Do I do ShareFile? Do I Dropbox it? All those things I tend to not love. And on a separate topic, maybe we can chat about this, but I'm trying to reduce email inbox risk where, you send me a secure link, I grab something sensitive, but then it stays in my inbox.
Yeah.
Well, what if somebody hacks me later and that link took you to very sensitive cracked hashes or a pen test report? I probably don't want that in my inbox. But anyway, this transfer.zip is something you can stand up in Docker in about 2 commands. And as a matter of fact, the latest addition to bpatty.rocks has that little, that's the newest edition, just pushed yesterday or the day before, where it's just one config file and a couple of install commands. And you can stand this up, and it's all over. Well, the video goes into it, but it's all over WebRTC, I think is the protocol. So the idea is I'd open up a tab and say, I want to send Joe the server 2019 ISO. And I go, here you go, Joe, here's a link. You load it in your browser. And as long as my tab stays open and your tab stays open, the transfer happens. And then we close it down. And really the transfer zip server that you have is just like the intermediary or the proxy. So it's like, oh my gosh, so simple, right? Didn't have to have my customer stand up anything. I did have to stand up something, but it took about 15 minutes,
Yep.
So.
And Brian, what does bpatty stand for again? And how can people find out more about bpatty?
Brian's pen testing and technical tips for you. I couldn't do bat fee. Maybe I could do bat fly, but I don't know what the L would stand for. It's too late to rebrand. Millions and millions of people, Joe. I can't.
Yeah,
I can't change at this point. Okay, let's get into hacking the GOAD. Now, let me bring over also I'm going to link spam you a little bit in the chat. Let's just talk a little bit about, hey, where do we get this and how do we install it? I'm not going to go through the full install, but here comes link spam into the main chat box. There's your home for downloading and running this. Now, because sometimes I do these things and then I get tech support questions about it. just to be clear, my experience with installing GOAD has all been through installing it via Ludus.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go on our site and you listen to these a couple episodes, Ludus is something that is installed on the bare metal. So you get a vanilla Debian 9 server spun up, you run Ludus, it runs Proxmox and does all sorts of networking and config magic, and then essentially gives you a command prompt where you can go, I want to install GOAD, or I want to install GOAD SCCM. And honestly, it's a couple commands. You walk away for a few hours to have dinner with the family and hang out, and you come back and the range is stood up and it's ready to go. Like, it's awesome. But that all said, I'm sure you can follow these configs, and they've got a ESXi deployment. I mean, you can do it homegrown, but I just have to put in a plug for Ludus that I have deep electronic love for them, because it was a handful of commands and then just me going.
So multiple ways to deploy. If you want to deploy it, you found that's the simplest way. So that's why you went that route.
Exactly. Yep. And then as you, let me actually just go back to the PowerPoint really quick, because what will be stood up, and I know this is kind of hard to see. I just wanted to have it all on one screen so we could get a feel for the size of this beast that we're attacking. It's huge. There's 3, domains. So we're going to kind of start and just see where we get today. But you're going to get a lot of experience with, ADCS, with curb roasting, with ASREP roasting, with network poisoning, with relaying, fiddling with SMB signing. The one thing I wanted to make sure you were aware of, though, that I was confused about is, like, I got my vanilla GOAD stood up, and I was really excited because a colleague of ours was like, GOAD has an exchange box in it, and it's pretty common still for us to run across LAN side exchange on pen tests. And so I wanted to sharpen my skills, attacking that. But then I look in my machine list and there's no exchange box. Well, hunting around the documentation enough, I found out that that is a separate, if you go into their documentation library, that's a separate extension that you need to install. And it really is just like another install command, and kind of wait for install to complete. But that had me confused for longer than I care to admit, Joe, because I just thought, in fact,
it's not interesting that it confused you. It's interesting that that is a separate installer. So good to know.
Yeah, because I'm a little bit more of a hit stuff with a hammer, right? I thought, the script must not have finished, and I trashed the whole lab and then install again.
Why go read the documentation when you can just start over?
A lot of people like to read. I just don't find it. I don't.
I read enough.
Call myself. I read enough during the day. So those two. Let's see. Those two. Actually, let me put this. The exchange one is important. Make sure if you want exchange. If you don't, that's fine. But this was one of the things that really brought this to the top of the interest list for me, is I wanted to eventually get us in this series to the point where we're seeing how we can have some fun with exchange. And then if you read these first 2 tabs, you'll eventually come to this amazing write-up.
Yeah.
That goes through, kind of from all directions, to recon and scan this with no creds, to finding users, to enumeration. There are so many. I mean, they've broken down so many different enumeration and vulnerabilities for us to play with, and then multiple ways to find those too, like having no creds and then having like 2 or 3 different ways to start like brute enumeration. It's just so cool.
Well, because it covers all the ground, right? So let's think of it even in 2 ways. One is, I want to be I want to learn more about pen testing in Active Directory. How do I do it? Here's a perfect way to do it. What about if you're on the blue team and you want to learn more about what these things look like, because you may not have experience every day with what these attacks look like? You learn, in my opinion, so much more when you see the attacking side and couple it with the defense side, especially when you can do it yourself and just learn more about it. So you may look on the blue team at a detection and say, how do I detect this? But how great is it when you can actually run some of those commands, even the simple commands maybe that we'll talk about today, like Nmap, like run an Nmap scan, because attackers do use Nmap. and see what it looks like. And is it worth a detection? Is it overkill? Is it? So I think even on your map up there, this deployment can be deployed with Elk Stack. And so you can look at collecting some of those logs and see what it looks like. The other thing that I've been thinking about is, let's say you have telemetry in your environment today, whatever it is, but you have an agent endpoint in this environment. Since you manage it, so to speak, you could put your agent endpoint on these devices, put it in like a read-only mode or report-only mode, and just know that it's in a lab, and run some of these attacks and get some telemetry to make your detections better. Or like, hey, why doesn't my antivirus, be it Windows Defender, whatever it may be, why
Yeah.
is it not stopping or protecting this? And did I know that? So, I mean, there's so much to be learned from this. And
Yeah.
it's one of the reasons why on GOAD that we're kind of starting over. Even though we started with GOAT SCCM, there was particular reasons for that. But we're taking this all the way back to square one and just saying, we're going to show you Game of Active Directory from the beginning, and try and point out some of the ways that you can utilize it for your learning, both on, red team, if you will, on a pen tester side. How would we approach this from a pen test? Here's one way we approach it. If it's this assumed breach, we would approach it a different way. If it's
Yeah.
we're trying to be as stealthy as possible, we would never run in map scans, right? So we'll try and talk through a bunch of those scenarios, and this will
Yeah.
be a series of multiple, starting with just how to get started. So
Yeah. And as far as installing your own tools on this stuff, that's such a great point, because yes, it's designed to have a bunch of the configurations and problems that we find in a pen test, but to be able to throw your own stuff on here in an environment that you don't care if breaks. And one thing we talked about with SCCM is kind of like a bonus value, the GOAT SCCM lab, is that if you've never configured SCCM, use this opportunity to log into the SCCM server and look at the interface. And we even did, I think, some hardening where we put a password on the Pixie Boot configuration to stop people from just grabbing that and running with it and getting clear text high privilege creds. Like you said, same thing. I've not played. I'm anxious to get there eventually. I've not added in these extensions, or you can even just add a Windows workstation, and we could do maybe in a future episode, we do a bunch of the Windows tooling for some of the attacks we'll have. But I mean, like you said, it's just one easy to install platform that has kind of limitless training opportunities on both offense and defense. So it's pretty nerdy. And I just wanted to mention, you could get this, of course, all up and running in your own lab. This for me it's hosted on a Hetzner bare metal server. So I put that Ludus cloud on there. And I think it runs me like $40 a month. So it's a business expense. I know some people might say, well, that's crazy expensive for a lab. You could bring it in house just with some decent hardware, but I like having this on dedicated hardware. I got the lab spun up, shut everything down, snapshotted it. And then now in Proxmox, I have a little batch file. So to your point, Joe, if I go in and install a bunch of endpoint stuff or format the C drive or whatever I want to do, I can run my little batch script that says, roll back everything to the gold snapshot, power everything up, and then it's healed. You don't have to tear down the entire range,
right,
rebuild and wait 3 hours. Maybe obvious, but I just want to let people know it's not like you have to go, 3 hours in between tries,
But $40 a month for this type of learning opportunity, I mean, that's right. How much is streaming a month? So, I mean, this is nothing. So,
yeah, I paid double for Hulu, so this really probably this would I would argue has more value.
And like you said, if you want to do it that way, I mean, it's bare metal. It gets it out of your environment if you don't want it there, or if you're just trying to learn and you want to set up a home lab. There's a lot of great hardware, especially a little bit older hardware that you can pick up on eBay and other places to do this at home should you want to do it. It's just choose your poison.
Yeah, right on. So as part of this, once this range was all stood up, all I really did in the Proxmox environment is I said, okay, new machine, and I installed like a vanilla Ubuntu server, and that's where we are here. So we are in, just to kind of set the network stage, everything. And by the way, the networking all taken care of by the Ludus install. So by me just saying throw a new machine out there, it automatically put me in the right subnet. I'm in the same subnet as everything in GOAD. So we're pretty much good to go and start sniffing around this subnet for interesting bits. But a big, again, Joe, if I didn't make it clear, let me say it one more time. I don't like to read. I like to play. I like to
Reading's hard.
Yeah. A lot of time could be saved by reading the part of the GOAD install that says, hey, careful, because once you start like trying to ping things and use Kerberos tickets, you're going to have a nightmare of a time if you don't do some prep steps. So for example, I'm just going to kick things off by, you and I, we're starting with really no knowledge of this environment, which I know some pen tests, we do start this way. Typically we start with some sort of low level cred, because if we did phish somebody, right? Or,
you'd land on a machine, right? No matter what. So it's kind of that, are we trying to simulate, and I feel like this is kind of an old school approach with zero creds, just like show me what you got. And we've pivoted away from that more into, look, if we phished you, we would be starting as that person. So let's make this a little more realistic and start as a person. It can be the most low priv person, because chances are you would end up, phishing somebody who is low priv anyway. So that's typically where we start. So, that being said, that's why I talked about like in-map. As a low priv user, you probably wouldn't start doing in-map scans, right? And so, but to learn from a learning perspective, it's good to know some of those in-map switches and things like that. Okay, back to you.
Yeah. You just made me think of something with that whole start with no creds versus creds. Yeah, sometimes we do get a little bit of show me what you got. Are you guys any good? And it's like, well, hold on, let's understand the context here. Because sometimes it is appropriate context where they're like, we've got this semi-isolated VLAN. It's in a conference room. Sometimes people bring in their own machines and they plug internet straight in. What could they do? It's like, okay, cool. That, if that's a
perfect scenario, right? That's a scenario that is legitimate. And if it's on your threat radar or something you're concerned about, then let's start that way.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is just, I'm going to get into Exegol. I think we talked about that maybe last time.
We did. Yep.
That is,
you might just mention again what it is. And
yeah, it's, and here, let's of course, just keep, everybody likes clicking on stuff, right? So, let's see, maybe not. And I'm sorry, I'm not a Star Wars person. I didn't understand the reference. I guess that's a Star Wars planet reference. But the Exegol I'm talking about is kind of an all-in-one pen test platform, almost like Metasploit, where when we start it, you'll get an Exegol prompt, and kind of everything you're doing is in that container, if you will. What I love about it, just a quick plug for it, is that it's got, I don't think I've found maybe anything except a couple tools that it's missing. It's got all the crack map exec, the Impacket, right? All the man in the middle 6, all the popular stuff runs right inside of Exegol. And the big win from me, and the main reason I switched to it, is that it doesn't have any problems, at least that I've run into, with Python dependencies.
Because that's a question. Like, wait, Brian, I don't understand. Kali has most of those things, all of those things built in. Why would you layer on this Exegol? And it really comes down to the, like, anyone who has, been in this any amount of time, or even just working with Python in general, the whole dependency thing is mind-numbing. And just when you get the dependency resolved, even with the Python environments and everything else, then something else breaks and you're like, snapshot machine, robot, and so Exegol, cool.
And it's I can think of, for me, hardly a more gut twisting scenario to be in than to wonder, am I not getting the desired result because of the tools, or because they've got it hardened?
Yep.
And just one more layer of nightmare sauce on top of what you described, where you're like, oh, can't get the dependencies to work. Well, then now imagine an environment you're in where the web access is very strictly controlled, and you can't even get out to get the dependencies you need to fix your broken problem.
Exactly.
Much of that, I'm not saying it's a magic bullet, but much of that would be resolved with Exegol. And I'm going to show real quick. Sorry, we're kind of going Inception level, but as this stuff comes up, I go, this will help somebody. I'm going to start this container because Exegol has an AD container of tools. It has a web focused one. I think it has an OSINT level one. And then I think one that's the kitchen sink. That's a huge download. I am going to summon, because I've already downloaded this AD package here, but I'm going to add the TAC-L for logging. And I just want to show you this really quick because this is so helpful for pen testers. So we'll get the container spun up. It's kind of nice. It does have a update check built right into it. I will not do that right now. Okay, but with it open, okay, I've turned on logging, right? So check this out. I'm just going to go,
It's neat. True.
And that's okay. That's all I'm going to do right now. And if I look in the logs folder, everything I do is recorded in this ASCII cinema format. Have you played with that before?
Mm-mm.
Have you seen that? Oh, so then I can do, let me see if I can get it right. Enema, is that the, okay. Yeah. I can go, oops, am I getting too far? Let me just bring this up so I'm not conflicting with people's eyeballs. I think I can go play, logs, and then now if you just wait, my hands are off the keyboard. It's showing me everything that I did.
That is super cool.
Yeah.
ASCII
now,
I like it.
I don't know it enough to know, like, could I just have it dump? I'm sure I can just have it dump a command log, but how nice that you've got time stamped everything you do in a pen test without having to screenshot yourself to death or copy paste to death, right? Like,
yeah.
If there's ever any question from the customer, hey, Joe, our exchange box went down at 4 p.m. yesterday. Were you doing anything? You can go, well, hold on. Let me just look. No, I had a gap between 2 and 8. It wasn't me. It was probably Brian, whatever you want to do. Okay. So I guess apparently it goes on loop. So we don't need to keep seeing that over and over again. Okay. So,
I saw something else there, NetExec.
Just in case we need it. I don't think I'll use it this time, but it's here. I'm just going to do, again, since we have no creds, I mean, tell me what you think, Joe. Honestly, I'd probably, in fact, maybe I should in the second window. Probably I would get responder going. Would you concur with that?
Yeah, I mean, let's set the scenario again, right? We are on a assumed breach pen test, we'll call it, where we did provide the device, but we didn't have any credentials. So that is why we're on a Ubuntu box. That is why we're not starting with other avenues of exploitation. This is, we plugged in a device on the network and we're going from there. So we need to discover credentials. We need to discover areas to pivot around the network. So typically we'll start pretty quietly. So responder running in the background, just listening for what kind of chatter is happening on this particular network segment. Let's let it run and this is what, ear to the ground, ear to the tracks, whatever else. Like, what do we hear out there? What's flying past me on the wire?
Yep. Because there's a lot of Microsoft insecure defaults that if the customer hasn't hardened for it, there'll be certain kind of traffic that is poisonable that responder can kind of raise its hand and say, yeah, authenticate to me, talk to me, it's fine. And in doing so, we can capture hashes. I just wanted to point out, because I ran into this when I was playing earlier, I'm so used to coming in to responder and saying run on interface ETH0, because it usually is named that by default. But then I was like, oh, ETH0 not found. Why is that? Well, because in this particular environment, the network interface is called ENS18. So just little tip for those of you who shoot first and aim later. You just need to make sure you get the interface right. So let's call it, instead of ETH0, let's call it ENS18. Oh, and the TAC capital P is, hello. You can put responder in several different modes, but like you can have it just listen. You can do TAC capital A, have it just analyze and kind of listen for what's happening and listen to servers and things talk to each other. Or you can put it in active proxy auth or poison mode. I think proxy auth is what capital P stands for, but essentially we are doing active poisoning here. So we've seen a request for a system name or a domain name. we were able to poison that request and say, yeah, we are what you're looking for. And so this 10, 5, 10, 11 system where Rob Stark is logged in. By the way, are you a Game of Active Directory fan, Joe? Do you follow do you know the characters? And
it's funny you said Game of Active Directory, just so you know.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. Are you a Game of Thrones? Yeah.
A little bit. I think I got through the first 2 seasons, and then I was just kind of like, I don't know why. I just didn't. I got to it late, I guess, and I feel like I'm going to devote the rest of my next 5 years to this, or I'm just going to back out now. So,
okay, I got far enough into it to be like, I got to see how it ends because it seems to kind of culminate with a big battle. But I don't know if it was a stand-up comedian or who it was. Or maybe it was just a friend of mine that said like, that was just like, just be honest with me. And I know we're a PG. This is like a PG-13 comment, but he's like, is it really anything more than dragons and boobs? And I was just like, well, I was kind of
can't argue with that.
Like you're not totally wrong. Anyway, so we're what is Rob Stark. So that's a character in the I think Game of Thrones fans will probably even drool even more to be like, I'm pen testing, which I love, and I'm pen testing in a world that seems to be designed around the story. So the characters. So so this is pretty cool. So we're actually already getting a hash we could potentially do stuff with. We could copy this down to our hard drive. We could run Hashcat and maybe crack what Rob Stark's cred is. And then boom, we've got a working account to kind of start doing, more enumeration and more attacks with. But I think what I'm going to do is just, I think I'll just leave that running. And I just wanted to show you one, just one consideration from starting unauthenticated. I'm going to run netexec, which again built right in here to our workspace for Exegol. I'm gonna run SMB. I'm gonna run this against the entire. I think we're 10.5.10.0. I'm just gonna run the SMB authentication module with no creds, which I believe you can do if you just hit enter here. But I see on a lot of write-ups, they do something like this, which is essentially no username, no password, just authenticate to the whole subnet.
Yeah.
I do get a little bit of vomit here in our feedback, and that I'm pretty sure is because when it hits my machine, when I'm running responder, I think it just, I don't know, it causes a freak out. So if you see this, from my experience, it's usually you have tried to authenticate to yourself and you're running responder, and so we're gonna
poisoned yourself and caused all kinds of problems. Yeah.
Yes. So so this gives you a little bit of the lay of the land as far as boxes. There's the server name, which domain they're part of. Because remember, let me go back to the image. We've got a few. We've got the 7kingdoms.local. North.7kingdoms.local and at Essos. I don't know how. I can't remember. Essos.
Can't rely upon me for those.
Okay.
I didn't watch long enough to know. So.
Somebody will know. We also get, just from that quick authentication with no creds, we do get another piece of key information, which is we've got a few boxes here. Looks like Castle Black and Bravos. Do not have SMB signing turned on. So that makes us happy.
Why does that make us happy, Brian?
No, I was going to ask you, Joe. Why would you be happy if you saw that on a pen?
Well, some of these fun attacks like relay attacks, really the mitigation for them is turning on SMB signing. So in the opposite of that, when SMB signing isn't on, it allows you to take advantage of a variety of different relay attacks. And relay attacks are, I would say, a much less resource intensive attack when you're talking about cracking good passwords and Hashcat, because it could take hours, it could take days, or you could never crack that password if it's good. But with the relay attack, you don't need to know what the password is. You simply relay that NTLM v2 or v1, whatever was running on there, you relay that to a different box. And you are essentially that user with whatever privileges they have.
Yes. So we would, if this is like we were in proper pen test mode, I definitely throw these into a notepad just to be like, okay, I'm coming back to you because it pairs, very well with what we have going on here, right? Oh, and there's another guy, Eddard, if that is a guy, I'm not sure. Eddard, and we had another one, I think, right? Eddard and somebody, Rob. Okay, brothers, probably. So we
cousins.
got
I don't know what.
two. Yeah, we got two accounts regularly, sort of in capture mode. So we may, in fact, be able to relay one or more of those accounts, Rob or Eddard, to the two systems Joe just found that have SMB signing disabled. And and actually, if we take a look at look at this. From our diagram here, Eddard is probably too small a font for you, but Eddard's a domain admin. So,
which we don't know yet, but this is
right.
good just visually for you, again, from a learning perspective, because this is really all about learning is, well, how do I figure out that Eddard's a domain admin? And we'll get into that. Like, again, this is going to be a series, but what we want you to try and correlations we want you to start building is both as a pen tester, or if you're a blue team, how do I figure this out? Because these are the types of attack paths on the defense side that you're defending against. Like, why is this person beaconing, so to speak? Like, what is their account doing? We want you to know what their account's doing or why you would see this. The other thing is thinking through those scenarios of, well, why would we not want this person to be in this highly privileged group doing an activity like this? And you can go back to your team, your management, and say, look, this is why we shouldn't have a service account doing XYZ. And it gives you a very fluid and clear picture of, oh, wow, I understand this. I didn't read an article and regurgitate what I read. You fully can start to understand what is happening in the environment. And you don't have to run responder in your environment without practicing here, because responder can cause a lot of problems, right, Brian? Don't we know that well?
Right, we do. And I'm glad you said that, because I do see still some younger testers going like, I want to get into pen testing. Yeah, I'll just try this at work because I saw a video about it. Looked fine in the video. It's like, oh geez.
And everybody's browser stops working and all of their SaaS applications are broken. You're like, no, I didn't really do anything. I just turned on responder. It's fine. I've proxied all of your browser traffic through my one machine that can't handle 12,000 endpoints talking to it at once. But
but now that I look through my Exegol logs and replay with ASCII Cinema,
I did happen to run something.
And you're absolutely right. In more of a typical pen test where you did start with a credential, it'd be a lot easier to open up Active Directory users and computers and look at Eddard and Rob and go, oh, Eddard's high value, right? Like, I definitely want to do something with this account. But you're right. We normally wouldn't have known that if you're truly starting blind with a pen test. But that is another thing I really like about this diagram is like, it's kind of an open, open world to choose your own adventure. But I like that they do give you some hints. Again, the font is really small, but they point out some little notes beneath the users and the computers that'll say like, this server has Active Directory certificate services, and you can privilege escalate this way. So it's kind of nice.
And it's really meant to help you connect the dots. Like, you may not fully understand in your environment what is the downside of Active Directory certificate services, or you may read about, SAN. We have this ability for users to supply a SAN or a subject alternative name. Well, I don't understand that. Here, go in this environment and play with it and get a full idea of the ramifications without having a monkey in your environment. And in fact, fix some of this stuff, retry your attack and say, oh, this is how I tell those folks to fix it. And you have hands-on experience, not just relying on an article that says, well, this is what the article said to do. It just said, turn this off. Well, what's the ramifications of doing that? What does it look like? What are all of the things that we need to know? And you're not going to get 100%, but it really will help build your confidence in when you're making security recommendations that you've at least saw some of the ramifications or saw how the attack works, and you can think through, is this really a problem for my organization? If you're on the blue team. If you're on the red team, this gives you an example, which you'll hear Brian say it all the time. We do this all the time. We never attack something. Never, right? In the world of Sith, never speak in absolutes. However, we rarely attack something without trying it first in the lab. Because there are so many, and that's from the School of Hard Knocks, there's so many ways things can go sideways and wrong. We want to fully understand what we're executing in someone's environment and try and work through all the scenarios to minimize the risk as much as possible.
Right on. Yep. Okay, let me go back to console here because we've got okay, so we've got two different accounts we may be able to try to crack and or relay. So that's awesome from a starting in the blind perspective. But I wanted to show you something else that is built into this that I was curious if you'd ever seen this. I don't think I ever have in the real world, but a colleague of mine says they've seen a decent number of times that in an Active Directory pen test, one or more domain controllers are set up for or misconfigured for null session enumeration, where you don't need a username and a password, and you can still glean information out of a box. And one way, there's some Nmap scripts that will you could scan an environment and you could enumerate if that config is out there. But with NetExec, there's one kind of interesting. Let's see. I don't know if it's LDAP or SMB protocol, but I think it's just users you can run this against. Oh, it is. Yeah. So all I did is, it's still finishing. I ran that same command. So I didn't provide creds because we really don't have a working username and password yet. And I said, just iterate through every machine in this subnet. And if null session enumeration is enabled, you can get some information about Active Directory users. So in this case, the King's Landing box spit out a list of users. Here's their name, their user login, and then also their description field, which, comically, there is a password for
and
that.
You say comically, but like how many assessments, Brian, have we done where we see this and almost unequivocally the response is, we honestly had no idea that was still in there. Like nobody's noticed that. And this dates back to a SQL Server account that we installed 10 years ago. Yeah. We needed to share the password. There wasn't password managers back then, and we've never rotated that service account. It still happens. It still happens. And it blows me away. But this is, again, just as a best practice, we try not to discount these things because they still happen and we still find them. And it's an easy win, but from a security standpoint, it's a great thing to report back to customers that, hey, a lot of people still don't look at this, and this is something that still exists. The other thing you can do from this point, again, from a no credential, even though we have a credential now, we think, right? We don't actually know if we have a credential. And I'm sure you'll test it in like 30 seconds, but this gives us a path for password spraying. So we now have some accounts that we could do some pretty simple password spraying with and try for the company name 2025. We had to enumerate those names somehow. So either open source and guess what we think some of the names are. We saw some examples, but.
Yeah. And I, let's see, did I get, whoops, is it, I might be on the wrong. You know what I could do is I could always do this to check where it works with that Samuel account. Oh, so Samuel is a get. Oh, interesting. Okay, this might be a future attack path, but they're a guest on ssos.local. And then if I go up a little bit, looks like looks like we have a valid account in north.7kingdoms.local. So that is north7kingdoms.local. Okay, north. Okay, so in this ecosystem, we've got a working account, and that makes sense because we were seeing Rob and and Eddard. Now I know I feel like this has been like really good, solid foundation stuff. I know we're kind of already running up, getting close to the hour, and that's actually perfect timing because I wanted to just go back to sort of a fundamental thing I want to save you all from running into that I started having at this point. And that is, I've got these server names, I've got these domain names. And let me see, actually, I don't know if, one second, I just got to see if, okay, we might run into this. So here's what was happening is, where do we say Samwell worked again? It was on North, Seven Kingdoms local. Okay. And a system called Winterfell. I'm just going to put this in my notes because I have, I don't know. Does a goldfish have a short memory? That's what I have.
Yeah.
If I later want to pick just on Winterfell, no love, no DNS resolution. I think we will find that for, if I go like Seven Kingdoms.local, maybe this one will work. No. I had all sorts of problems to this point. And again, Joe, did I mention I don't really like to read or slow down?
Read. Yeah, that's what it was. Read.
Yeah. So right in the documentation, it'll tell you, hey, folks, they point out two key things that they'll say you're probably going to have problems with unless you address. So what they recommend, and I've just got it in a notepad, you could get it right from the README, is they say go into your Etsy hosts file and then paste in entries that map to the machine name and the fully qualified domain name. Oh, actually, I might have had, hold on a second. Take it back. I'm going to not save that. I've got a slightly updated one. There we go. So whether you try to hit this as King's Landing Seven Kingdoms, or Seven Kingdoms.local, that will always resolve to the right things. So that is going to make your just finding systems life a lot easier.
Yeah.
And then the second part of this, and actually, that might be, you might just have to, I might have to get that fixed next time. There's a Kerberos config, Kerberos, in the configuration file for the Kerberos realms. You're going to want to add in here, and they've got it in the README, the different the different realms here and the associated domain controller IPs. When we get more into the Kerberos stuff and stealing and passing tickets, we're gonna run into some headaches if we don't have that set right. Okay, good. Whoops, don't want to edit that. Okay, so yeah, good so far. So yeah. We've got so we're as we kind of finished episode 1 here, we've got one cred to work with, but let's go ahead and if we inside the Exegol container, if we look into opt tools responder, remember we were running responder in the other window.
Yep.
We look in the logs directory here and do an ls. Here are the two machines that we captured hashes from for Eddard and whatever the other guy's name was. Rob. Eddard and Rob. So let's go ahead, and I think it's safe to assume they're not, well, I won't assume anything. I would hope at least one of these would be relatively easy to crack. But what I'm going to do is go into responder, and you've probably seen this, but this is really handy. If you've run responder for an extended period of time and it's gotten just, all sorts of hashes, all sorts of stuff has flown your way, this little built-in script they have as part of the repo really is nice to, kind of as the name implies, it just dumps out one hash for every account that you've captured. So it kind of dedupes it and just puts it all in one big list. And if they're all, for example, like in our case, they're all the same, all NTL v2, makes it much easier to just grab that whole thing, throw it into a file, and then pump it into Hashcat. So we'll do that. You have any other way you would prefer to do that, Joe, or does that seem like a reasonable?
No, I love that. I hadn't seen that before. I think there was the
really?
news to me. I did it the old school way and opened up the log files and copied and pasted them and hope I didn't have spaces and other things. So
okay.
It's crazy that after all this time, there's still like Responder's been around forever, still discovering stuff about it. Like crazy.
Yeah, it's and certainly that works too. Going through the either catting out these files, that'll work too. Just do a little copy pasting magic. But this is sort of great when we can go, okay, we're going to just take everything nice and lean, no extra spaces. Let's go back to kind of our working directory. I'll just call this hashes.txt, plopperoo. And then, I think hashcat should be here. Just a kind of standard disclaimer, right? I'm running a very, very low resource CPU based VM. If I was going to do any hardcore cracking, I'd bring it over here to the cracker box that has GPUs in it and offload some of that workload to it. But we're gonna give it a shot and just see if like the screen says this will take 8 days, and if it does, then forget it.
Okay.
I'll crack it in between episode 1 and 2, and we'll come back. But and then the other question is, do we have something like RockU handy? And we do. Okay, so another plug again for Exegol. It's got it in the opt folder where kind of a bunch of our other stuff is. So let's go hashcat. Let's put it in the mode of actually, let's just see if it's smart enough to figure it out by itself. So I'm going to say hashcat. I want you to crack away at the text file with these hashes in it, and then I'll point you to a big fat word list to do your work against. We'll see if it's. I think it's going to be smart enough to figure out what types of hashes those were. And
I already got one.
Sweet.
CPU. That's a bad password when you crack it on a virtual CPU. I didn't say GPU, Brian.
Yes. Okay, so look at that.
Look at the status though. Exhausted. I think you said that was you.
That that I was tired. Yeah. Like, hey, don't say those disparaging things about me. Computer, I tell you what to do, not the other way around. Okay, so we've got another account. Now wait a minute, that wasn't the okay, that wasn't the DA, but Rob has what? Oh, he has a bot that sends out the LLM in our query and also has RDP access. So in a real pen test, right? I'd probably look at my users and I'd try to find out, how important Rob is. In this case, if I wanted to be a little bit more just spammy about it, I would just feed his cred to the whole subnet.
Honestly, even if it's selective, like if we are being quiet, one of the things we do is just cherry pick a couple of boxes here and there to try and log into. So it's really like, are we trying to be stealthy? Are we not trying to be stealthy? By the way, Responder, I think, do you recall the one tool where we saw Responder actually get picked up? I don't know if there's more now, but the only one, what was it, Brian? Was it like not Trend? Rapid7.
Something Rapid7 had something. Yep.
Like Responder poisoning for Responder poisoning. There's another Inception reference of like you're repoisoning the poisoning. But otherwise, from a blue team perspective, Responder in passive mode is pretty stealthy, I would say.
Yeah, you're right. I think it would feed bogus system names and fully qualified domains out, and then it would see that our box was going over here and going, oh, we see you. But yeah, you're right. If you, if we're not caring too much about stealth, I do this pretty often because one thing I want to know is, we verified Rob is, let's say we looked in the tools and we're like, okay, he's not in the DA group, but he might have local admin somewhere. And that would be great because local admin is often a great stepping stone to the eventual goal of getting DA. So what the heck? I'll just spam his account against everything. And Joe, I'm getting
the giggities.
I'm getting the giggities. Yep. We've got local admin. Let me just scroll up again. I think I've caused some log vomit because I hit myself with this. So okay, nothing there. But right away, and this is maybe like a perfect place to just kind of break. Right away, Winterfell becomes, and let's see, what was that box? That was this guy. Oh, and they actually are. Oh goodness, they are an admin on. Wait, was it Rob or Ed? Who did we get? We got Rob, right? Yeah, Rob.
Yeah.
So Rob's is an admin to the DC. So does that mean? Am I literally at the place where I could do? Is it just Whoops. Is it just NTDS? Is that what I can do to?
Yeah.
Do we talk about this? Yeah. Okay. There. We said it before, but worth repeating. We anyway don't do this anymore on real pen tests. Where
we used to,
yeah, where we attempt to dump the entire Active Directory database because systems are getting real sensitive to that happening.
But it's like hitting the winning slot machine in Vegas, where you're just like, tick, 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 and we like that sound.
So I think I have the permissions to do that. Oh, and I do.
Game over, right? Like, come on, an hour? I mean, would we spend 30 minutes at most, really?
I mean, you just, and this would be great. We could.
We'll pretend this never happened.
Of course, yeah. we'll part 2. We'll kind of we'll go at it. You know, there's many other ways, right? But also we are just, we've conquered one property one way. I'll do some research between now and then because I think we could have gotten here 8 different ways, and we should.
And from a pen test perspective, this happens every now and again. It's almost a bit of a letdown, but sometimes when you've given 6 deliveries or 6 pen tests this week, you're kind of like, yes, I needed this win. This means I can sit on my hands for another couple of hours, maybe take a break. And so every now and again, it's okay to have a quick win, but it tells you that, hey, customer, you have some work to do. Local admin, like let's focus right there. Let's get some laps going. Let's get some, rotating those local admin passwords. Let's get people ripped out of local admin accounts. And it still happens. This is not. It's getting less and less, which is phenomenal. But this definitely still happens.
I'm glad you said that because some of the things we saw, like passwords in the description field, and then kind of having overly permissioned users, and then having a Game of Thrones theme, it looks like, they're really kind of punching this up with some comedy and fun, but it's like you said, no, a lot of this is very much what we still see out there. And I was just going to check real quick in the chat. It looks like Samuel says, I'm excited to learn. Awesome, Samuel. Hope you did learn a few things. And then our buddy Zoke says, hey, stop telling everyone my password.
And he has to rename his kid.
I have to rename my kid named Heartsbane. Well, cheers. I mean, I don't know. I'm sorry that we are going to have to. Yeah, that's got to be expensive. Probably a legal proceeding.
Yeah, can't be easy.
Yikes! I don't think I've ever had that come out of a webinar. But good luck with that. If there's any other questions in the last 60 seconds here, we'll please funnel them in the chat. Otherwise, Joe, I had fun. If you're available, I'd like to pre-invite you to next month. We do this every 3rd Thursday, something hacky like this. I just thought, this hit my giggity cylinders. And so I'd love to join you again, and we'll, just keep going with interesting paths. Like I said, I definitely want to hit that exchange one before we're done with this series. I don't know when that'll be appropriate.
Yeah, and we can do different things like we would, like we talked about. We can forget that we got this path and just start over from the beginning and take a different path, and not use those creds. And just a really, really great learning tool. It's why we're so, as Brian says, giggity over GOAD, because it's never been this easy to cover so much ground on how do I test this, how do I learn this. Phenomenal. This is just phenomenal.
Yep. Great stuff. Thanks everybody for joining. Appreciate it. Thanks, Joe, for co-hosting. Loved it, and hope to see you all again soon. And of course, shameless self-promotion, 7minsec.com is where we do security services. So
there is a business.
We'd love to talk to you about that. Yeah, this unfortunately doesn't exactly pay the GOAD bill, but
right.
We love to share, right? So
love to share.
All good. All right. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great rest of your week.
Thanks all.
You've been watching or listening to 7 Minute Security, a weekly podcast focused on pen testing, blue teaming, and building a career in security. For more episodes like this, visit 7ms.us. And for information about our consulting services, visit 7minsec.com.